Lakers now 9.
So when Chris Broussard went on First Things First and said, plainly and directly, that LeBron James will never truly sacrifice his game for the good of the Los Angeles Lakers, it didn't sound like an ordinary sports debate, it sounded like a major public admission. Because this wasn't coming from someone known for attacking LeBron. It came from someone who has spent years defending him, framing conversations in his favor, and giving him the benefit of the doubt whenever criticism appeared. That's what made the moment so striking. Broussard didn't sound emotional. He didn't sound angry. He said it casually, almost like everyone in the room already understood it to be true, and then he pointed directly at the numbers. The Lakers have looked extremely effective in stretches where Luka Dončić and Austin Reaves are running the offense without LeBron on the floor. Meanwhile, the fit becomes more complicated when all three share control together. Those discussions have floated around basketball media for weeks, but most analysts avoided saying the obvious part out loud. They tried to soften it, explain it away, or frame it carefully. Broussard didn't. He openly acknowledged that the team's flow appears cleaner and more natural at times without LeBron dominating the structure, and then he took the conversation somewhere even more important. He explained what the Lakers actually need from LeBron at this stage of his career. Not vintage LeBron controlling every possession. Not the version averaging massive scoring totals while functioning as the center of the entire offense. Instead, Broussard argued the Lakers need LeBron to embrace a completely different role, the type of role players like Chris Bosh and Kevin Love once accepted to make LeBron-led teams work. That means less ball dominance, more off-ball movement, more screening, more selective scoring opportunities instead of organizing every possession around him. Broussard used history to explain the point. In Miami, Chris Bosh sacrificed touches, statistics, and parts of his individual game so the structure around LeBron and Dwayne Wade could function properly. In Cleveland, Kevin Love adjusted in similar ways while LeBron and Kyrie Irving handled the primary offensive creation. Those players changed their identities for the system to work. And Broussard's argument is that now, for perhaps the first time in his career, LeBron would need to be the one making that adjustment. Because with Luka Dončić in the picture, the hierarchy naturally changes. Luka becomes the high-usage offensive engine. Austin Reaves evolves into a major secondary creator and scorer. Which means the roster only fully fits together if LeBron accepts a more complementary role instead of remaining the center of everything. And that's the part of the conversation that makes people uncomfortable. Not because it's insulting to LeBron, but because it asks a question basketball fans have never really had to ask before: can LeBron James truly become the sacrificial role player that previous stars once became for him?
It's bad when you got LeBron guys finally coming out here and saying the bloody truth, right? So, as you guys know, a good amount of people have accused LeBron of using these last 5-6 years to just kind of enhance his own legacy. Chase Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring record, hold on to 10-point scoring streaks, stat pad and all of that. People have said that, once LeBron realizes the team won't be any good in any given season, he just focuses on his stats.
He just sat down on live television and said something the entire NBA world has been waiting to hear from someone in his position. And what Chris Broussard admitted about LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers was not what anyone expected. Because this wasn't coming from a longtime LeBron critic. It wasn't coming from someone who spends every week questioning LeBron's legacy or attacking his leadership. Quite the opposite. Broussard has openly acknowledged his connections to Clutch Sports, LeBron's agency, and for years, most viewers have understood exactly where he generally stands in these conversations. When Broussard talks about LeBron, the tone is usually favorable. The benefit of the doubt almost always leans in LeBron's direction. That's simply been the reality for a long time, and everybody watching knows it. Which is exactly why this moment hit differently. Because even Broussard finally admitted something people around the league have quietly debated for years: LeBron is not going to fundamentally sacrifice his game or his control to fully reshape the Lakers around someone else. And once that idea is spoken out loud by someone normally seen as supportive of LeBron, the entire conversation changes. Now the question becomes unavoidable: if the Lakers truly want to maximize the future, is it finally time to fully commit to building around Luka Dončić and Austin Reaves instead of continuing to orbit around a 41-year-old superstar? That's no longer just a hot take from critics. Now it's entering the mainstream basketball conversation itself. A complementary role. A finisher. A screener. lower usage, fewer touches, less time dominating the ball. The kind of veteran presence that elevates everyone else without needing to remain the center of the offense. That, according to Chris Broussard, is what the Los Angeles Lakers actually need from LeBron James right now. And then Broussard said the part nobody expected him to say publicly. LeBron is never going to fully do that. Not because he lacks basketball IQ. Broussard made it clear that LeBron absolutely understands what the team would benefit from. He sees the spacing issues. He understands the data. He knows how the roster fits best around Luka Dončić and Reaves. But understanding something intellectually and becoming it personally are two very different things. And that's where Broussard's point became deeper than basketball strategy. Because after 22 years of being the guy, you cannot simply wake up one season and stop being that person. That role becomes identity. It shapes every part of your game, your instincts, your decision-making, your positioning, your relationship with teammates, even the emotional gravity you carry inside a locker room. Broussard compared it to legends like Michael Jordan and Allen Iverson. Once players reach that level of superstardom, the identity itself becomes permanent. You don't just flip a switch and suddenly become a low-usage support piece. Especially not after spending 2 decades building your career around being the engine of everything. And that connects directly to another uncomfortable reality Broussard pointed toward. LeBron's legacy has always been tied closely to numbers, not secretly, not accidentally, publicly. Scoring records, assist totals, all-time rankings, historical milestones. Those achievements matter deeply to how LeBron wants his career remembered. He has embraced statistical greatness as part of his legacy from the very beginning. But a reduced role naturally means reduced production, fewer shots, fewer touches, fewer counting stats, and fewer stats mean slower progress toward the historical milestones that continue shaping the GOAT conversation around him. So, if the Lakers aren't realistically positioned to win a championship anyway, which Broussard also openly questioned, then the calculation changes. To that point, preserving legacy numbers becomes part of the equation itself. And Broussard identified another layer to the problem that goes beyond LeBron's personal decisions. His presence alone changes the psychology of the team. Even when LeBron tells teammates to play freely, to attack, to do their thing, players naturally defer to him anyway. It's instinctive. When one of the biggest stars in basketball history is standing on the floor beside you, the offense bends toward him whether anyone consciously wants it to or not. That gravity affects everything. And according to Broussard, that may be the hidden tension sitting underneath the Lakers' entire identity right now. Not because they lack confidence, but because LeBron James carries so much historical weight inside a basketball environment that everyone around him naturally adjusts to his presence. It's almost automatic. Reaves instinctively defers to him. Role players shift their positioning and decision-making based on where LeBron is and what he wants to do. Possessions bend toward him, even when the system might function more cleanly another way. Not consciously. Gravitationally. And when LeBron isn't on the floor, that gravitational pull disappears. Suddenly, the hierarchy becomes simple and natural. Luka Dončić becomes the clear offensive engine. Reaves slides naturally into the secondary creator role. Marcus Smart sets the defensive tone. Every player understands exactly where they fit without mentally navigating around the expectations that come with LeBron's presence. And because of that clarity, the team often looks freer, sharper, more connected. The Marcus Smart example against the Knicks perfectly captured the larger point. He shot terribly from the field, an awful scoring night by any normal standard, but still finished with one of the best impact numbers on the team because he was completely locked in defensively. Communicating, rotating, drawing charges, doing all the small things that help winning basketball happen. That's what functional team basketball looks like when every player fully commits to a defined role. And according to Broussard's argument, it becomes much harder to sustain that structure when one player operates under a completely different set of priorities than the rest of the roster. Which brings the conversation to the larger question surrounding the Lakers moving forward. Because this isn't only about one season anymore, even. Chris Broussard acknowledged that the Lakers may not realistically be true championship contenders in the Western Conference regardless of LeBron's status. Teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder and Denver Nuggets are operating at another level, while rising stars like Victor Wembanyama are changing the future of the conference entirely. But the record without LeBron matters for another reason. It offers a preview, a glimpse of what the Lakers could eventually become if the franchise fully commits to building around Luka, Dončić and Austin Reaves instead of constantly balancing around LeBron's legacy, usage, and statistical priorities. Because the structure already appears visible, the ball movement improves. The role definition sharpens. The defensive identity becomes clearer. The offense flows with fewer hesitations. The foundation exists. And according to the growing conversation around the team, the biggest question is whether the Lakers are finally ready to build fully around that future. Reports surrounding Rob Pelinka suggest the organization is carefully studying these stretches without LeBron to evaluate what the roster truly needs moving forward. And if those evaluations are honest, and if even long-time LeBron supporters in the media are beginning to speak openly about it, then the conclusion becomes harder and harder to avoid. The Lakers' next era appears centered around Luka Dončić and Austin Reaves, not LeBron James. And that's what made Broussard's comments feel so significant. Because a longtime LeBron ally didn't just criticize the roster, he publicly acknowledged something many people around basketball have quietly believed for a long time: LeBron understands what the team needs. But after 2 decades of being the center of everything, he may never truly become anything else.